I think we're recording now. First of all, what episode is this? Is this episode 6?
No, more than that, right?
6,
Right.
yeah, it's not 8, it's 6 or 7 or whatever. Do you want to introduce our guest today, Ollie?
By the way, it's 2:40 in the morning. There's me and Josh with a mustache, and my mate. I say mate. My guest, Matty.
Is he your friend or not?
So here's it's going to be awkward as hell. Here's how Matty Kirk, me and Matty Kirk know each other. So years ago, when I was about 20, 21, me and Matty knew each other because we played foot against each other. But a girl that he was with at the time, who he'd recently broken up with, I ended up being with after that. So he was the guy that he was like, at the time, it was my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend who I had to play footy against. So it was awkward as hell. So, but it was also annoying for me because I was like, he's better at footy. He's got more hair. And it's like, I was like, fuck's sake. So that's how me and Matty know each other. But we've not spoken for years and years and years. And since then, obviously, we've both done the whole adult life thing. So the idea behind this is that Matty wants to get across. So Matty's a dad. Is it one kid or two kids? Two kids. And he wants to emphasise what situation he's in with the whole systems and single dad compared to single mum, and how it's left him, how he's feeling, and what he feels the drawbacks in the system are. Because I said before on the phone to him, and Josh, you may agree or not. If you're on
well, I think we all know, like, we're going to agree on this because, like, it's a well-known thing that men are on the back burner when it comes to the legal system and the justice system, especially when it comes around child custody and things. Like we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, me and Ollie, we don't have kids that we're aware of, but like there are a few things that we may be able to jump in. But the point behind this particular episode is for Matt to kind of stress, his situation and just essentially just talk to the boys. It's like 2:30 in the morning, 2:45 in the morning. And like I don't even know you, Matt, but like I think it's important to have people out there to just talk about shit. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
So
I said I've not got kids, and Josh has not got kids, but I can relate because if I went on Facebook now and I scrolled for 2 minutes, I guarantee I could see a female talking about a kid in custody and my kid's dad's such a this, that, and the other. But I don't think I've ever seen a bloke that said, single dad, my kid's mums are so and so, slate. It just doesn't.
Yeah. So let's just we'll just clarify at the beginning. This isn't like a witch hunt in particular. This isn't. Oh, has Ollie gone? Well, this isn't against anyone. The whole thing behind this is literally just for Matt to talk about a situation. We're aware that there's like different situations for different people, for men and women. Sometimes men have custody, but let's be honest, the majority of the time it's the women that do have the custody of the child.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. I'm not going to pretend I know them all, but like it all depends on a variety of different things. And let's be honest, I mean, I don't know about your situation, but I know a number of men whose babies' children do use their children as weapons.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know guys that have like so fucked up because of it, and it's like I can't even imagine how hard that must be. So like, there are generally some women out there that don't give a fuck, and they don't want this child to their dad's life, and I can't even understand or imagine. But again, I know it's a touchy subject, and there's different situations, and sometimes they're abusive, sometimes they're not. But a lot of the time, sometimes it's just pure like to use it against the child for whatever reason. Do you know what I mean?
In an ideal world, yes, everyone should get on, everyone should be civil, blah 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 blah. But however, when it comes to reality, it's a simple, like you said, a simple weapon to use, like, and it can be done without any consequences whatsoever. You just kind of have to take it, and there's nothing you can do about it. So
tell you what, Matt, if you want to explain your situation, so probably from the beginning. So like you don't need to mention names or anything, but you had these. How old were you when you had kids, and what was it like at the beginning?
Oh
And why?
I was very young, so it was like, what, 22, 23.
Was it planned or?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I was quite, you know, for me, I was quite settled. I was like, right, happy days, this is me now.
Sorry,
and then, you know, in terms of job-wise, I wasn't earning a lot. It was just bog standard. The child's mother was having her maternity leave and all that. That's fine. You know, they're entitled to all that. But then it kind of got to a point where finances kind of got on top of us with only one person kind of working. So children, especially babies, cost shitloads of money. Nappies, yada, yada, yada. So it's quite hard to maintain the baby, then, you know, rent, bills, yada, yada, yada. And then I would probably say, I mean, I'm not 100% sure on facts and stuff, but I would say probably finances has got to contribute to most, you know, troubles in a relationship.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
You know, if one, you know, if one person's doing this and then the other person's not doing that, they may resent the other person because they're thinking, right, well, you're lazy, you're not doing anything, and then that person might think, well, you're not giving me enough credit because I'm looking after the baby, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And you would like to think that if either party is not happy in the relationship, that's cool because everyone has their own opinion, they can do what they want. And then it should be as simple as sorting out as in, you know, 50-50. That should be the automatic go-to.
You know what? I'm going to stop you there for a second because I can relate big time to this. So I think one of the main issues in modern day relationships is there's become this grey area between gender roles because there isn't gender roles anymore. We're just living in a world where everyone is supposedly equal, but yet men are still expected to provide, and not to everyone. I know that there are women out there that work and power to them, and there are couples where they both work and they can, you know, somehow miraculously look after the kids at the same time. But there are people out there who just expect the men to bring money to the table and they stay at home and just do the dishes and whatnot. It's true that this happens,
but
and it's hard.
In respect to that, though, it can also work the other way because, you know, for all whatever, there might be, like, obviously with COVID going on, there may be the guy in question that's been, you know, made redundant. However, mum has managed to keep her job through all this shite going on. So then you would have thought the common sense would be, right, dad stays at home and does all that shit and mum goes to work. Now, I don't have an issue with that because at the end of the day, you have to do whatever you have to do to make it work. That would seem like common sense to me.
Yeah. I think it depends on the situation, doesn't it? And
of course it does.
And I think as well, like, a lot of the time, especially when you're young, you were 22. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, when I was young and naive, I used to think all that was needed to make a relationship work was pure love. Sounds corny, but like I thought that was all. You know, I thought, oh, we love each other, we can get through whatever it takes, and it's like, man, I was so fucking wrong when it came to that. Like, there's so many things you need to take into account, like finances, gender roles, agreements, boundaries, that kind of thing.
Josh, I just need to ask, in terms of finances and stuff, I'm 34, so I've got a fairly good idea about, quote unquote, how much it costs to raise a kid. But at the age of 22, so that's 12 years younger than I am now, what we're talking, so obviously when you're 22, in terms of finances, you want to put your finances elsewhere, you know. But if you had a kid, obviously, I mean, how much of a financial impact is it? Not stress, but how much of a financial impact? Obviously, you've got to buy clothes and nappies and this, that, and the other. But what's the difference between the impact of them when you're with your partner compared to the impact financially when you're not with your partner? As in, is the cost of having a child substantially more when you're not with your partner?
Sorry, is that aimed at me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. Shadow. Because there is this wonderful system called the child support services.
So how does that work then? Because I don't know.
How does it work?
Well, how does it work? Basically, 9 times out of 10, if a relationship were to break down, it's normally the male that leaves. So automatically, you're classed as the non-resident parent. Okay, so when you're under that title, so to speak, you're then legally obliged to pay maintenance to mum for the upkeep of the child, which is fine because we all know children cost money. It's not no-brainer. But however, the way that they do it, I think is not, well, it's outdated, it's biased, and it's not fair. So, for example, I'm trying to think of a few examples here. Let's say you're in a job where you work nights all the time, but throughout a week, you look after the child while mum goes to work. So, for example, I know it'd be hard because you have to get your sleep in, so but let's just call it that. So you would spend, I don't know, from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. and then you do your night shift. So that's Monday to Friday, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That, the CMS, that doesn't register on their kind of criteria because all they take into consideration is how many nights that the child stays with you.
Yeah.
Right.
So even though you would be technically caring for the child, even if it's a baby, so you would have to, they wouldn't be going to nursery, you'd be doing the feeding, the changing, everything, yada, yada, yada. You would be then on top whack, which to them, again, they've got all this on the website, but I think it's about 12% of your wage.
Okay.
This may sound like a stupid question, and if it is, you're allowed to laugh at me. All I see is dad's paying mum's child support, but under what circumstances would mum's pay dad the child support?
Does that even happen?
Yeah,
It can do, but this is where it gets silly. So there's a thing called a child benefit. Now, normally, when you're in hospital and mum's given birth, whatever, you get these nice people that come around with starter packs and stuff. Now, straight off the bat, they egg on the mum to sign for child benefit, right? Now, whether there's a thing behind that, I don't know. However, this benefit payment, to me, gives them the individual say so over everything. So even if this is how stupid it is, let's say you had it 50-50 throughout the year, half and half, week on, week off, right? If the mum is in receipt of child benefit, they are automatically assumed as the main carer.
Yeah.
So because of that child benefit payment, because it's in their name, they are then entitled to that percentage of your wage, even though on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis, you do everything half and half. So if you did like half the hours, half the days, everything down, even if you did it down to the T, half and half everything, it still would not make a blind bit of difference because mum's name is on the benefit thing, and that's all they go off.
This sounds like it sounds pretty much like a guy that goes to my gym who's been divorced for 10 years or so. I didn't know that when you get a divorce, well, back in the day, in his circumstance, in terms of earnings, they take into consideration his projected earnings of his career path. So, say if he was earning about say if he was earning about 30 grand, but during the legal back and forth, even for a fact, his career was on the up, and in a few years' time, he'd be earning 50 grand. The amount he pays to his wife or ex-wife goes up because they've predicted he's going to be earning that much in the future.
Yeah. So again, you have a yearly review. So let's say the dad is earning 30 grand a year, right? So the calculations have go off your gross. So even if you do any overtime, anything like that, that obviously goes onto your gross for the year. They take that into consideration. They don't go off your basic. So let's say, so he's on 30 grand a year, right? And then let's say, for argument's sake, he gets a better job and he ends up earning 45,000, right? Once that yearly review comes around, they will obviously go to HMRC because they're attached, look at his P60 and go, oh, he's on 15 more. So for that time period of when he was on 35 to, when he's gone from 30 to 45, as soon as he'd gone onto that pay bracket, he will technically be in arrears for however many months until that review. So that could relate to hundreds or thousands of pounds, depending on, other circumstances.
I mean, the thing is, though, like, question, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's
but,
right.
like, I mean, you obviously, you don't mind, like, giving money because it's for your children at the end of the day. But I think the issue, I mean, I don't know how it works, but does that money just go straight into the baby's mum's account and then she can pick and choose what she spends on the kid and what she spends for the nails or shopping or whatever?
It's not, what's the word?
It's just a lump sum into her account.
Yeah, she can do what she wants with it. It's not. I'm trying to think of the word. It's not like in terms of, say if you got a baby, it's not a voucher to go to Tesco and buy a shitload of nappies or anything like that. It's
I've got two questions, by the way. Right. First question is, when did this guy become a podcast member? There's the first question. Just there. Second of all, does it take into consideration the mum's earnings as well? Like, what if she all of a sudden earned 200 grand a year? Would you
matter.
Pay the same amount?
No, sorry, it doesn't. All they take into consideration, because you're classed as the non-resident parent automatically because of the child benefit and stuff. The only things they take into account are your gross, which you can't even hide it, even if you wanted to. If you owned like your own company or whatever, you can. Everyone who's self-employed, we all know they swing it so they don't have to pay as much tax. You could do it that way. If you PAYE, well, they just go straight to HMRC and get it that way. And then, obviously, like I was saying before, if you get any bonuses, like, I'm trying to think, if you've done any overtime, or I don't know, if for some reason the whole of your I don't know, if you're in sales and the whole of your team got a bonus of 5 grand because you've sold XYZ, that goes on your gross. So that's all taken into account, even though you've been grafting and done all the hard work and done all that work, essentially come that yearly review, it goes up. It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because obviously you want to earn more money, because
Can I ask? Go on, Ollie.
It's a bit like, well, two things. It's a bit like the tax bracket in normal employment. As soon as you hit over a certain amount and you go into the tax bracket, you feel like you're essentially getting punished for earning more money. You give way more, but also, do you not think? Well, here's a question. Do you think if your money that goes to obviously your kid's mum goes over there, do you think there should be a system in place where she has to document where that money's going to, or not?
I would say no. I just think the initial process, because I can't speak for everyone, but obviously we don't have an issue, or I don't, paying for my children. They are my responsibility, absolutely. But the way in which it's worked out is completely Stone Age, because, like I just said, it goes on your gross and how many nights that you have them and your pension. So let's say, like I was talking about the situation where you only do nights and you don't have the children overnight. Well, where's your kind of, I don't know, break? Because obviously you've had them through the day, so you'll have had to. Yeah. If they've been at your house, you'd have to pay for your fuel, your rent, the food, nappies. I'm talking about baby, obviously, but what? But then you're doing all that, and then you're still having to pay top whack because you're not having them overnight. It doesn't make sense.
Can I ask how do you qualify as a residential parent? Is it just like straight away the mother's the residential parent, or do they take into consideration jobs and living standards and all that? So
it goes back to the child benefit again.
So, but why is that? So how come you weren't the main parent in this situation?
Because I didn't have the child benefit in my name.
Right, so it's just a case of who has it in their name first.
Yeah,
Fuck off.
I've been to MPs, Mark Menzies, which is ours. I've gone through it with a fine nipped tooth comb, and everything that's come back is either led me to that benefit payment, which again is not right because the wording that they use is assumption. Now, you can't assume stuff. It has to be.
So
like,
let's just. Sorry to interrupt again, but I need to say this, otherwise I'll forget. But let's just imagine you've got like a fucking sick job, really good living, good living standards, and you don't touch drugs. You're not involved. You're not violent or in any way. You're a perfect role model citizen. And let's just say the other parent isn't.
Yeah.
But because the other parent signed the child benefits thing first, they automatically get custody.
Well, it's kind of if no one's got like a court order in place, if two people were to break up without any court involved, if mother or said mother went to the child support agency straight away, they would automatically look at the child benefit, which obviously makes the dad the non-resident parent XYZ. That's when the only choice you have is to go to court and everything. However, the stinger with that is that also costs money. So whichever way you look at it, you are forever paying out for something that should be your God-given right. As you said,
I know what you mean.
You're the model parent. You don't do it. You got a good job. Yada yada yada. Why, on God's green earth, do you have to take said person to a court, which costs money, to have a solicitor to represent you, which costs money, to then get something drawn up, as in a court order, which 9 times out of 10 isn't worth the money that it's written on because nothing really, there's no real consequences if you were to break said court order.
I think, Matty, is that what Josh is getting at? Is that say me and Josh are a couple. He's the male. I'm the female.
Yep.
He's the male. He's got a mustache. If we three of the kids and we broke up, no other reason apart from it wasn't working. All right?
Yeah.
He's the male. I'm the female. Would I automatically get sent the stuff to sign straight away? For sure, it's a piece of paper in the middle.
It has to be applied for in the first instance. It just doesn't automatically happen. So
but it's the first person that applies for it, though.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't.
So yeah, obviously, the government aren't going to know on every relationship that breaks up ever, are they? Now, again, if there's two normal, sane people, they can go, right, well, this is how we're going to work it out. You have them these days, you have them these days. Everything's fine. However, all the other stuff's coming into it.
Wouldn't it be good, though, like, if that's just how it worked and, people could, unfortunately, things aren't always that simple, are they?
And to be honest, there would be a lot more happy families if it did work like that, because there would be no animosity, there'd be no, what's the word? You wouldn't feel you wouldn't resent the other person, X, Y, Z, because unbeknown to the mum or whatever, or unless you've been in this situation, you don't know how much of a effect it has on you, because
I can't even imagine, to be honest with you, Matt.
Because you've got as a male, we've all got our shit to pay for. Everyone pays bills. You might be in X amount of debt. You don't know. So if you're only if your job only is paying you £1,000 a week, that's after tax and whatever. Let's say your rent is 500, and then your food, call that 100. So you're all out. So you got 400 quid left to play with. Then you got your council tax, call that another 100. You've got 300 to play with. You've got a car to run, car tax, all that fuel. Let's call that another 100. You've got 200 quid spare, as in disposable income, and then you get a nice big brown letter through the door saying, "Hi, you now must pay X amount," as in, I don't know, £100 a week to the other parent, and you're thinking, well, how the bloody hell am I going to manage that?
And can I ask, you don't have to answer this, but how are you managing that?
How am I?
Yeah, I don't know your financial situation, and you don't need to go into that, but like, how are you coping at the moment with it? Like, how are you getting by and stuff? Like, what sacrifices have you taken in to be able to do these kind of things?
Can I just interrupt really quick? Really, really?
No, you can't.
I want to get onto that next, by the way, that exact question.
Okay.
And the reason I asked the question before about, wouldn't it be nice if, or should the money that male centre their mums be checked as to where it's going? I only ask that because it would absolutely kill me if I knew that the mum of a child that I had a great job, but I knew for a fact that the money that I was sending over wasn't going towards clothes, schools, or meals, or food.
Well, this is what I mean. So exactly. So if you knew that would cause anger, resentment, that would cause a shitstorm, wouldn't it? Because you'd be like, well, what's the fucking point?
So going back to what Josh said, like, how do you feel now? Like, obviously, your situation, your story. How do you feel now in yourself? I mean, we spoke on the phone before about mental health and blokes being alpha males and not being allowed to come forward with been through. Like, what sort of journey have you been on in your head and in yourself after what's happened?
Well, there's times where you just think, like, what is the point? Because no matter what you do in terms of, even from, like, again, I went to the point of you have your children half the time, so you're not being a shit dad. You're doing what you're supposed to. You are doing as much as you possibly can. However, let's say because of your job that you've done, really well to get to and all that lot, even through all this, the courts and whatever, and you think you've got that squared away, you're still having to pay an amount of money, which, because your job's very good, it ends up being thousands upon thousands of pounds a year, tax-free, may I add. So, like you were saying, Ollie, about the tax bracket, if you're hitting that 50 grand mark and getting taxed 40% on your wage, but then having to give, by their standards, 8 grand a year, tax-free, right? Even though you're doing your bit, how does that seem fair? Bearing in mind, as the male, you want to progress, you want to buy a better house. Well, it all goes on affordability. So if you go to a mortgage advisor, right, what outgoings have you got? Right, I've got no debts, I've got no this is how much I earn. Right, well, unfortunately, your affordability is going to go down because you have to pay 8 grand a year to said person. Yeah. However, if mum goes for a house, that's classed as an income.
Yeah.
Like, go figure.
It's like if I had a kid and I wanted to progress in my career to afford my child the best life possible, all right? But I knew in my made-up situation, mum just didn't really do much, and that and the other. It would pain me to know that I'm progressing my career and earning more, yet having to pay more to a partner that, in my eyes, wasn't doing what they should be doing with the money. It's like you get punished to do well.
So, like, I'm sure every kid's dream is to go to the Disneyland in Florida. It's every kid's dream. So let's say, for argument's sake, you work your bollocks off and earn another 10 grand to pay for this said holiday. So it's 10 grand to go to Florida. You've been and done the holiday, so you've had a really good time. It was magical. You got all the pictures, yada yada yada. Come that yearly assessment, because that 10 grand that you've earned to pay for the most amazing trip for your children, yeah, that gets put on your gross. So then for the next year, you're getting like calculated of 10 grand more that you're not going to earn because you've done Florida. You've done that.
Yeah.
So you're almost having to work extra anyway to not even be able to spend the money that you're working for, because you're having to play catch up from last year when you've already been to Florida and Disneyland. You're paying for something that a year ago you did. So how does that work?
Fucking hell, man.
Where just to go on to what we were going on before, in terms of you and your situation, mental health and stuff, what sort of journey have you been on with this? Because obviously everyone's got their own mental health journey and experiences and stuff, but you've obviously got another human being, a child involved. So,
I've got two. So
how have you been? As in, have you had times when you've yourself just, or have you been sort of a roller coaster, or?
Well, yeah, of course you do, because obviously at this moment in time, although I still don't agree with how it's worked out. I'm lucky in the job that I've got that I can still maintain their so-called calculation and still have money, to do what I do. But that's because I literally don't do anything. I have no social life. Everything goes on them too. But again, this is me bugbearer. When it comes to this child benefit that we're talking about, it's a benefit payment, right? So what it basically is, it's what the government deem it costs to bring a child up in this country, and it's about 20 quid a week, right? So riddle me this: if that's what the government deem in this climate with all this with inflation, yada yada yada, if that's what they deem what it is, right? Why isn't there just an automatic set amount to match that amount? If that's what the government is saying what it is, why then does it turn into 16% of dad's wage, 20%, 22%? When is the cap off? So like, if you're having to pay I don't know, over £100 a week on a child, like, I'm not being funny, unless they're dressed in bloody Gucci, who spends that much on the child? They don't. It's not even realistic.
Exactly, and it goes back to what I said before with my friend who got divorced like 10 years ago. When he got divorced, why didn't they just see his salary at the time and say, you owe this much, irrelevant of what he does in the future, irrelevant of how good his job is in a few years' time? There should just be, that's your job at the time, job done. Also, agree, if it costs X amount to bring up a child every week, all right, why on earth, just because your job, for example, is better than the national average person,
yes,
why would you have to pay more?
Well, these are the things that don't marry up in my head, because, if you are a father that does sod all, and then yes, then it's your own stupid
there are
fault.
plenty of those as well.
Stupid fault, absolutely. However, if you are doing what you should be doing and doing everything by the book, as you say, why are you being stung financially? Because it is, I don't care what anyone says, it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
Especially when I talk about when everything's half and half, right? Well, if it's half and half, then no party should pay money to anybody. So why does a simple benefit payment, i.e., it's a benefit? So if dad earns what is it? I think if it's over 50 grand you earn, you're not entitled anyway. So why on earth is, let's say dad earns 70 grand, why is dad going to go and claim for a benefit payment that he doesn't really need, that he's going to have to pay tax on in the long run anyway? It doesn't make sense. So obviously the normal thought process is, well, mum might as well have it. No, it makes no fucking odds to me. But with that being said, that shouldn't be like a loophole to then be used against you to then, like I said, get 13%, 15%, 16% of your wage. I don't see how that's fair.
when you said before, Matty, that you got to a point where you were just like, right, fuck it, I'm close to giving up. Are we talking just bending over and being like, right, whatever, I'll pay whatever? Or are you talking, you thought fuck it, as in you were mentally, you were just in shutdown, you're just like, right, I'm losing my head.
Well, yeah, it was, because you get to a point, because you get so much on top of you, i.e., you know, as a dad, right, I need to keep a roof over my head, right, so I need to work. No, I need to work. I need to keep a roof over my head. I need to provide clothing, yada, 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 yada. So, you know, you're working and you're doing all that bit. However, it doesn't leave you a lot to play with, does it?
Can I ask?
So when I was saying, when you get that envelope through by law that you have to pay this amount, yeah, you do think, well, why should I fucking bother? That's why I'm sure if you Google it, most men just sack it all off and they just go on benefits because it's not worth it.
Can I ask what? I mean, again, a personal question, but what's the current relationship like with you and the baby's mum?
We have just been to court again for the third time.
And I don't want to be invasive, but what's the reason? What's happened that's made to just like go at you? I mean, you don't need to answer that, but like, is there a reason in particular as to why nothing can be done?
If I knew the question to that, then I know everything. But I know since my eldest was born, I've been there since day dot. I've never been kind of...
Because, I mean, I might be wrong in this, and some girls are going to fucking hate me for saying this.
Oh, they will do, because it's a trigger. It is. No one likes this conversation because, unfortunately, it's the truth and no one likes it.
There are women out there that have children as a little money maker for, and it's true. Like I know this has happened. There are women out there that have children because they haven't got money, and then they just rely on child benefits.
Correct.
I've heard stories about that, and I can't get my head around that, to be honest with you. But there is definitely. I mean, I don't really know the ins and outs of the whole justice system when it comes to kids, but like it is definitely 100% in favor of women when it comes to custody battles and all that kind of stuff, and prison sentences as well. But that's not about this podcast. But this episode even. Cool. But like, have you not like had a sit down? I mean, you probably already have, and it's probably stupid of me asking, but have you actually sat her down and said, "Look, like, I'm doing my best, and what do you expect from me?" Or does she just expect you to pull this out your ass? Do you know what I mean? Does she not even have a little bit of empathy towards your situation?
No, because, and this is what I had a chat with Ollie about, if the system wasn't as it is to be manipulated, then I don't think it would get to that point, to be honest, because it is there to be taken advantage of, because,
which it always is. Yeah, definitely.
You know, I mean, you could I mean, there's that many scenarios, but let's say, I don't know, let's say we'll use an extreme. We say kid's mum meets a millionaire, right? Living life of Riley, Bentley's 6 fucking bedroom house, yada yada yada. And let's say, for you know, you got a bit of a break and you've got a really good job, and you've gone to, I don't know, 60 grand a year, for argument's sake. So you're over that threshold of the 51. So you're already on that tax bracket. For you in yourself as a male, that's, you know, you're like, fucking hell, I've got a really good job now. Happy days. I'm, you know, world's my oyster. Because in our current climate and for the Northwest, 60 grand a year is fucking, it's shit up. Like, you won't get that. Anyway, maybe down south in London, but up here, that's very few and far. So you'd be on top of the world, wouldn't you? You'd be like, yes, happy days. This is how stupid it sounds. All it takes is for someone that she knows or whoever to get a little ear of it. Oh, you know, so and so's got a new job, right? He's doing this, right? We'll look up how much he earns. All right, well, did you know that if you do this, this, and this, you can get this, this, and this?
And they will do that as well. They'll do whatever they can to get hold of it.
Well, I'm not being funny. If you could get 500, 600 pound a week tax free for nothing, like any normal person would, it's free money.
Yeah,
It's tax free. Why wouldn't you?
yeah.
I need to the toilet really quick. When I get back, I need to ask you a question. It's going to be a bit of a deep question, so I'll give you a minute to prepare yourself. Ask us to the toilet.
Right. That's not going to help him prepare. He's just going to. Now all Matt thinks is there's a really big question coming, and I don't know what the question's going to be. So he's just going to stress him out.
Let's put his walls up really quick now.
Well, just realised my laptop goes crazy. But yeah, I'm not going to say any names, but I've got a few mates that are in a similar situation, and like they're on the phone to me crying most nights because
I'm sure there's a group that I follow on Facebook called Fathers for Justice, right? It's the only kind of legit thing I've ever seen or come across in terms of, you know, they do demonstrations, they do the superhero costumes off Parliament and stuff. It's the only one I thought, you know what, these are actually trying to do something and make a change. And the boy who does it, he comes out with some hellish frigging statistics in to do with suicides and things like that. And
do you know what?
Go on.
I was going to say, like, I think because it's such a hard, like, emotional, draining topic to discuss, that when men come about trying to, you know, put things on the table like statistics and facts and stuff, they can't do it because they're so upset and angry and they just can't think straight that it's difficult to actually argue good valid points.
The only thing I was going to say was that the statistics for male suicides between the ages, I can't remember the ages, but it's young, so it's like from 24 to mid 30s, is because of child-related issues. It's not because of or financial issues, which is related to the child support agency, because you are put in a position where you think, well, how the fuck am I supposed to get out of this one? I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't. So you just, and especially the worst one is if you're paying said amount of money, but yet you can't even see your children. Like I've never had that, but I could not fathom the emotional torment of not being able to see your own flesh and blood because someone says no, you can't, and then obviously not being able to do anything because if you do, she'll just ring and call the police on you, and you'll get X, Y, Z thrown at you, and you just kind of expected to just take it.
It just makes you feel, doesn't it, that like the government, the whole world is just against you, and it's in favour of the child's mother in most situations.
Well, yeah, like obviously, if the dad's a bit of an idiot and he's got X, Y, and Z, then yes, absolutely. But then you've got certain things to combat that, i.e., social servicing. That's their kind. But for Joe Bloggs, that really hasn't done anything, it's still as hard to get. I wouldn't say get. It's as easy as said, mum going, right, you're not seeing him. Why? Then they can block your phone. They can do this.
Yeah,
they could move halfway across the UK without you having any knowledge or say so, and then like what you're supposed to do then.
Yeah, that's heavy, that, and like, I mean, I wish I could, well, I say I wish I could relate. I wouldn't want to be in that situation myself, but there's not much I can relate to what you're saying to me. I can only imagine how difficult this must be.
Well,
and like,
on that, Josh, my question is going to be, so if anyone's listening, if anyone's seen Mind podcast, we've talked about relationships and how much of an impact they can have on mental health and stuff. I can only imagine the impact mental health wise of an end of a relationship plus having the impact of a child as well. It's like a double thing, You've got to deal with a breakup and you've got to deal with your ex-partner, but also you've got to deal with a human life that you love and cherish and worship the ground that they walk on. So it's like a double hit,
Of course, it is. In the same instance,
for you personally, and I've been trying to edge things towards that. In terms of you and your mental health, like what have you been through? I mean, obviously we've been through financial stuff. and we've been through how the system's run. What effects has this whole journey had on you and your mental health? And have you had support? Like, have you been to see anyone? Have you had moments when it's like you need to go and go to the doctors, or what? How bad we're talking?
I would go back to the point we were talking about, is if, as a male, you are just kind of expected to just crack on, just whatever, just get over it, man up, whatever. But then
the thing is, though, like I do think it is slowly getting better. You know, like there is awareness now around the men's mental health, but I think it's an English thing as well, because I feel like British men just don't speak about it. Like
obviously, when this first happened to me, we're going back to early 20, so this is 10 whatever years ago. So back then, in terms of the awareness and stuff, it wasn't there. So I'm kind of speaking from way back then, as in like,
right, yeah,
this is kind of how it must be, because you're none the wiser.
Well, have you had like, again, me and Josh are right little wet wipes, so we're so self-aware of all sorts of stuff. And I remember saying in one of the podcasts, as you know from knowing me back in the day, when I had nice long blonde hair, I think I was a bit of not a lad, but a bit of an alpha male. And then you've gone through life and you work the doors and this, that, and the other, and you think you're a bit of a solid alpha male. And I remember saying on the podcast, I used to quite like ridicule people that said I'm struggling with this and struggling with that. I used to ridicule them until it happened to me. Like,
you'd be the guy going on.
Exactly. That used to be me, mate. I used to be that guy that said you're a white mate, man up. But have you found that with your experience in your career, like, have you had moments when you've just been an emotional wreck, or have you keep it inside and be like?
Well, yeah, absolutely, because it's the fear of the unknown. So if something's happening to you that you physically and mentally, I guess, have no control over, it literally consumes you. So if I'm trying to think of it. Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say to Ollie then, it's perfect example of ignorance is bliss. Like, you don't really know it until it happens to you, kind of thing. And obviously, it's not like a fault of yours. It's just, I think everybody's the same. People, they kind of judge what they don't understand until they do understand. And it's, I know we're kind of too late to should have said that like 2 minutes ago, but
you're right. Ignorance is bliss, and you'll try and put it off and ignore it until it gets to a point where you're forced not to ignore it. And you've spoken depth, Josh, at what points you've been at, what depth you've been at. I've spoken at what depth I've been at, but I feel, Matty, that I feel like you're either holding back how you've been, or you're just a lot more solid and stronger than I've been, where I've just been like, right, hands up, I'm a mess. I've had an emotional breakdown.
I wouldn't say I'm surprised I haven't had like a blow in a gasket, but there's been times where I've just been like, I was saying before, like what is the point? Like, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. However, even with that concept in your head, regardless of whatever, you've still got two little ones that rely on you. So as much as you feel like you're being hard done to, or there's injustice, or yada yada yada, it still comes back to the kids
come first.
Like, you can't, no matter, even though you might be full that habit, you would never in a million years. If you did, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
No, shit parents.
You just can't do it. But yeah, there has been times where I've just been like, oh, what's the fucking point? Because like I said, if you're doing as much as you can and you're getting no thanks for it, and everyone has an end of a tether, everyone does. And no matter how strong you are, especially when it's your children in your own flesh and blood, it tugs on your heartstrings more than anything in the world.
So can I ask, actually, just dead quick, So obviously this was like nearly 10 years ago when this. So how long has it been since you've been paying child support and stuff? Like how long have you been separated?
Well, yeah, we were separated, then got back together, and then separated again.
Well, obviously that happens to everyone, doesn't it? Like there's never nowadays it's never just a clear breakup. There's always, especially when there's kids involved, you go back and you try it. But how long have you been how long have you been separated for from
Six or 7 years, give or take.
6 years? And is there any sign of improvement between you and the child's mother in regards to a civil sort of relationship?
See, this is another bugbear of mine. If families split up, automatically, anyone will tell you, be civil for the children, and quite rightly so. However, there are certain things that happen where you kind of think to yourself, like, well, why on God's green earth should I be civil when I'm having that done to me? Because if it was anyone else, they'd either be getting a mouthful back, or it wouldn't. You wouldn't just be like, yeah, that's fine. But I don't. But because they have the rank, you have to all of a sudden be like, yeah. So let's say for some argument, for some reason, the mum said, right, you're not having him for 2 weeks, and you're like, why not? No answer whatsoever. So for that 2 weeks, you're like I said, the unknown, you did it, and then you get to see the kids again. You don't forget that stuff. It's not just like, oh well, it's hard to just be like, yeah, no worries. Let's be like, it's hard to be civil with someone that has no second thoughts about doing that to you for no.
This is what I mean.
Reason.
So that's what I meant. So like, it sounds like, I'm not saying this is your ex-partner, but like there was a thing, like a group on Facebook called like Baby Mother Terrorists, where they use the child as a weapon. Say, right, you pissed me off, I'm taking the kids away for a month. But has the baby's mum
the best one is stick and carrot. So can you do this, and then you'll get that. And obviously you're gonna do it because you want to see your children. Stick and carrot, emotional blackmail, anything along those lines, is such an easy tactic to use. And unfortunately, it does work because you have no other choice but to abide, so to speak. Because if you don't abide, you don't get to see.
This is the thing. Again, I don't want to pretend that I know about the system, but there just seems to be absolutely zero support for men in this situation. Like, I don't see any benefit towards men when it comes to this situation. It's just all in favour of the mother when it comes to child custody.
Just to put this out there, by the way, Josh, I know Matty, and I also know Matty's ex-partner.
Okay.
So I'm literally a completely neutral opinion, because I've got a bad word to say about her, and I've got a bad word to say about him. But I can't help but think, from mum's and dad's side, they've both got external influences like friends and friends groups saying, if Matty he's got an issue, whatever, he texts a few people like, fucking what the fuck, blah blah blah, and then she texts some people saying, not being funny, but so and so's dad's from this, that, and the other. Girls have their output, and Matty, you said about a group on Facebook that you have a look at. Was it Fathers for Justice, or what's the crack there? What's that sort of vibe of that group?
Well, it's just basically a platform for advice and help in terms of separation for the father, because obviously you kind of goosed from the get-go, if you will. So they do offer legal advice, and you can take up their legal advice, obviously for a fee and all that lot. But then they also do rallies, and they spread the word about how this is wrong and out. But it's not just family courts. It's like I think you mentioned, but sentencing for women, like they go on about that shit. Like if a bloke did the same thing as a woman, the bloke would get a much harsher sentence than the woman. It picks out little bits, and then it picks out saying MPs doing something, and she might not mean it, but because it's just the norm, she'll make a derogatory comment towards the man thing, and he'll pick up on that, and he'll be like, well, that's not, you shouldn't be saying that. And like, you know, women have a minister for women. He was saying, well, we should have a minister for men for any men problem, like, shit like that. So it's kind of a bit like what you're doing, raising awareness for different problems that's specific towards males. That's the only kind of group or social media thing that I've ever seen that's kind of to do with males, really.
It's heavily outdated, and I think, I might be wrong, but like the reality is, like hundreds of years ago, like men oppressed women, like hardcore,
Yeah.
and it seems like there's never been. I feel like we're constantly reminded of that, and to this day, it still happens. Let's not lie, but when it comes to the judicial system, it's almost as if nothing much has changed, and it's like, you're the man, you're going to get the harshest sentences, you don't get custody of the children for whatever reason, and you're going to be paying X amount for the rest of your life, even if the mother's, got like a millionaire boyfriend or whatever. So what do you think is the answer? Like, what do you think needs, what kind of reform do you think would help?
It just needs to be a bit more realistic and fairer, and like obviously everyone's got different circumstances, but it needs to be looked at more specifically than in a general way. So like, if the dad has got a shitload of debt, because everyone gets in debt, everyone does, don't care, everyone's got debt, how is it fair to then expect him to pay an unreasonable amount to with what's he supposed to do? Just give up his debt and get even and just be in his debt for his rest of life just because that's child law? There just needs to be a bit more common sense about it, and then other things that are taken into consideration, i.e., why can't, if you're paying for stuff for school, or if you've gone out and bought all the school uniforms and PE kits for the rest, why isn't that taken into account? Or stuff like that, even though it's technically a need for the child, because they need to go with fucking school uniform. No, why isn't that taken off the bill? Why isn't or even if it's tax free, right? Okay, well then why don't you get a tax relief in some sort of aspect? Anything would be better than nothing.
Yeah. So who would you need? Like, again, like, I'm new to all of it. I don't really know much about it, but like, has anyone ever like wrote a letter to MPs regarding this issue?
Yeah, I'm sure millions of people have, but it won't change in our lifetime, because so long as the system is in place, the welfare don't have to pay out as much, and that's why this system is in place, so that it doesn't have a strain on the, like, as we call it now, universal credit or whatever. That's the whole reason it's been put into place.
I've got 2 questions, just whilst we're wrapping up a little bit. 2 questions, right? Firstly, I'll fire both questions out. The first question is going to be, what do you think a female's opinion of this topic would be? And the second question would be, if there is a bloke listening who is in the situation that you were in, what advice would you not give? In other words, bad advice. So, as a female, what do you think their opinion of this? So, for example, if a female is watching this now who has a kid who is in the same situation as you and your ex-partner, how do you think their opinion? What do you think their opinion is going to be on it?
Well, the irony is I was in a relationship with a girl who had a child, and their dad was shocking. Didn't do anything, and I think off the top of my head, she got £7 a week.
This is the thing, though, isn't it? I mean, every single situation is different.
Of course, so as you can imagine, I'm trying to move on with my life and trying to, start my own. But so essentially, I'm covering 2 families on one wage. So I've got mine, because baby daddy does sod all, so I'm picking up the tab for him. But then even though I'm doing my bit by the by, I'm paying astronomical amounts to the other side.
Yeah.
So I can see it from both angles. So like, I used to get it in the neck because she used to, as she would do, when she'd be like, well, how come she gets X amount off you, but then I get X amount off him? And you know, that is the unfortunate thing. There's such different things of the scale. It's untrue. There's never a happy medium. So I'm probably sure that there may be mums that be like, do you know what? Every credit, you do what you do. Unfortunately, it's a bit of an injustice, yada yada yada. However, you might get someone saying, well, you're just having a whinge because X, Y, and Z.
I mean, everyone's going to have a different opinion on it, aren't they?
You know,
whoever that guy is, he must be giving a double thumbs because he's getting rewarded for like I said, he's getting rewarded because he only has to pay £7 a week, but also he's getting rewarded because he's got another male paying for a child that, quote unquote, he's paying for. You know, so he's like,
obviously, we were together, so I didn't mind. I thought I was quite happy because I thought, well, you're everything I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind. I thought, right, I'll kind of like a bit like the alpha male thing. I'll look after everyone, whatever. But obviously, because there was different polar things of the scale, the topic would always come up, and it would be a case where we want to do something as a family, whatever. And I'm like, do you know what? I can't because I've got to do this. And you're like, what? Like, instead of getting 2 lots of school uniform, I'm getting 3 lots of school uniform. But then, I'm not saying I'm whinging about it, but it's just the reality of if you're a male and you're starting again with another relationship, you're going to do what you're going to do to support and help and X, Y, and Z. But then again, if you're covering 2 families, it's hard to do both, especially when the one that you do, the other side, is completely biased and unfair.
Do you think just going back to the second question, what would be your advice? Because obviously my initial question was, Matty, to ask you, what could you have done differently? But from what I'm hearing, you've pretty much just done things by the book, and you've been.
I'd have got the child benefit in my name. That's what I'm saying.
What advice would you give to someone, as in, if you were to write like a top 3, if you're in my situation, do not do this? What things would you like, I'd say, again, I've got only kids, but I'd say don't put it all over Facebook. That'd be my first thing. Don't get it out there. My child's mum's done this, that, and the other. Like, what? Because there will be people listening to this who are.
That's a good one. That because the amount of times I don't really use Facebook anymore. I've deactivated my account and I plan on keeping it deactivated. But the amount of times I've seen statuses where like girls and guys, they write paragraphs of their entire situation and people are commenting on it, not because they give a shit, but because it's drama and it's like watching fucking TV. Like people so when people talk, they're venting, but what they're really doing is they're just entertaining people. So I think it's good, keep that to keep it private in aspects, not
Yeah, no, I'd agree. In terms of like, if there is anything to do, then keep it to yourself. Don't say anything in front of the children because that's not fair. It's not, it's not their problem. It's adult-related problems. If you can sort it out between yourself, then great. If you can't, well, it is what it is. Obviously, in terms of the financial impacts, because this when they do all the workings out, they don't tell the other side what the implications are. So if dad's actually saying, look, I'm actually on my arse, I'm struggling, that's not like, maybe that might not be actually him trying to palm off paying or whatever. He actually might be on his arse because he's got X, Y, Z and whatever to pay for, and he's a bit like, well, what can I do? So like, if he's doing what he's supposed to be doing and you have people in your ear going, well, if you do this, it's not the way to go. It causes animosity between the families. At the end of the day, everyone wants to be happy. You want mum to be happy, you want dad to be happy. Kids want to see mum happy and dad happy, whether that's with another person or whatever else.
Matt, do you think, like, I mean, again, I don't know the baby's mum, but do you think it's ever possible for you and her to get on and work something out so it can be easier between you and the kids and her?
I would say no, because I've obviously just gone through it all again for the third time. If it was that easy, then I would never have to gone in the first place. So but again, everyone's different. It's some people, some women are like, well, I would never stop my kids from seeing, and that's the right way. Like, why would you? I agree, but then there's some, like you said, that use it as
weapon,
the bargaining tool or the stick and carrot, or to get what they want. X, Y. It depends on the individual and what their morals are and how they want to, how they want to, like. Because at the end of the day, you're always going to be in each other's lives. Your mum and dad. You can't just. It's not like you can block them and off. And they're always going to be about. Kids are always going to talk about him. Why have I not seen dad? Why have I not seen mum? Yada yada yada. So what is the point?
Last question for me: is there ever a situation? I might be completely naive here. Completely naive. Is there ever a situation where it doesn't go through courts or child benefit, and it's a case of, you break up with a partner, and you'd have a child, and you just amicably say, all right, well, no problem. You have so and so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'll have the Tuesday, Thursday, and I'll pay you this and this and that. Does that ever exist where it's just off record?
It can do. That's what's called a family-based arrangement. So that is literally in-house. So you agree everything between yourselves. Like, by all means, you can write it down and sign it. Yada yada. However, it's not any side can stop that at any given time. It's not legally binding.
Do you think that doesn't happen too often because, like we've said numerous times, do you think that doesn't happen too often because you feel the system's geared more towards females, so it'll be in the female's benefit to not go that route and go the official route, pen on paper, this, that, and the other, because the system's geared more towards the female and the male?
I think that's the way to go, because to be fair, it is a law. So by them doing it, they're thinking they're doing it all above board. However, when it gets into the nit and gritty, it's actually making things 10 times worse than what it needs to be.
Do you think females, again, is last question, do you think women are aware of the implications for the bloke, financially and mental health wise? Is woman A aware of her child's father, man A? Is she aware of the implications of, if he earns this much extra next year, that's what effect it's going to have on him? Or do you think?
No, I don't think they know that.
Because, but you remember, again, I know you, I know the partner, the ex-partner, but they've got legal advice, you've got legal advice. So each party's suggested actions by their legal party, aren't they? Their advice. So, Mrs. X's representative would say, in this situation, I suggest you do this, blah blah blah. But they wouldn't say, I suggest you do this, Miss So and So, because it'll mean he has to do this.
Oh no, they don't go in. They don't go into that. No, it's not. See, the irony is, the courts and that system are completely separate. How stupid is this? The court has no say on what they do. That's how stupid it is. So the court can't overrule them.
I think, to be honest, mate, if relationships end amicably and there's no bad blood, and just, this sounds awful, but if you just fell out of love or whatever,
yes.
If both sides did have their legal representatives, if Mrs. A's representative did say, I suggest you take this route, but it means that your ex-partner has to do this, and this will be the financial impact on him. If it ended amicably and they're still on civil terms and stuff, she might think, well, no, that's quite harsh actually. No, I don't want to go that route.
See, again, depends on the person.
Yeah.
You could flip side it, and the solicitor goes, well, because at the end of the day, their best interest is in the client. They don't give a shit about the other side. So they could quite rightly go, well, if I were you, I'd do this, and this is an extra 400 quid tax free a month. Job done.
Hey Matt, off topic here, but have you seen Adam Driver's Marriage Story film?
No.
Mate, fucking watch that film, because it's a perfect example of like a marriage breaking apart with kids involved, and like the reality behind it. It's a cracking film, and I watched it, and you kind of get a sense as to how it must feel.
Obviously, I bet he was a broken man, wasn't he?
I mean, it showed, but this is the best thing about the film, though. It did show both aspects. It showed the woman's side and the man's side, but you also could see is like the lawyers in the woman's ear, the lawyers in the man's ear, the friends in each other's ears getting involved.
Two things. It's like just a very watered down version. The film, The Breakup, with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
That shows both sides of a breakup, and both legal sides, right? But for you, Josh, just to put this back on you, imagine your situation you've had with your previous relationship, and how bad that was. Imagine the stress that caused, plus an extra human being.
Mate, I couldn't do it. I would be dead.
Exactly.
Genuinely, I would have killed myself. Me personally, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When he goes on about the male suicides and stuff, that's one of the main causes, because you get to a point where you're like, just doing myself in.
The thing is with me, like, and I've never shied away from it. Like I struggled, like when I had my breakup like 2 years ago. Like I'm only just a couple of months ago, kind of normal now, but that fucks me up. So if there was a kid involved, mate, I wouldn't have. I'm telling you now, I would not have managed to survive that. And I say that openly, like, don't get it twisted. Like, I'm not like suicidal. I'm not at all. But I'm just saying, if I was in that situation 2 years ago with a kid involved, I would not have survived that. I wouldn't have survived it.
On that, John, the trigger point for me and my like previous mental health issues was a female and the end of a relationship. So again, like with you, if I had an extra human to deal with, let alone like a little dog, who's got custody of the dog, who's got custody of a child that we've created, I don't know how I would have dealt with that. Because you went through a rough time, I went through a rough time, but I can't understand how you, for example, Matt, went through the whole breakup and the prolonged. You've got a human who doesn't just disappear. You've got a human then to bring up and raise at the same time as trying to deal with.
This is the irony. 9 years on, and I'm still having to go to court. It's mad.
Yeah.
It's tough, until both of them are 18. That will be the only time where I feel like my arse is covered, as sad as it sounds.
What would happen if you just stopped going to court one day? Like, what would be the case?
Well, we've got a court order in place. However, this is when I say they don't really, they're not worth the paper they're on. Said person broke the last one, so I obviously went to court because it was broken. But then there's been no repercussions or anything.
But if you didn't go to court, what would happen?
I'd probably get. I don't know. It wouldn't look very good though if I just didn't turn up. Like I said, I wouldn't know because I've always turned up. So I couldn't really answer that, but I'm gonna presume it just wouldn't look very good.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough one, isn't it? I mean, again, I wish there was more I could say to relate, because I can't even imagine how it must feel like. But I mean, it's safe to say, obviously, with any situation, they're all different situations, different reasons, different actions, but on both parents and whatnot. But 9 times out of 10, it is in favour of the woman, and it is something that needs to be addressed. And like you said, it was a bit of a shame when you said we probably won't see it in our lifetime, and it's kind of like, well, why not? Why can't we see, just equality
Well,
when it
that's what I
comes
was
to
saying about
children?
you've got LGBT and all that lot going off and X, Y, and Z, but yet the rights in terms of the family courts have just not caught up in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
it's mad.
We said Josh on the phone. Matty raised a good point about LGBTQ and whatnot. Everyone's equal, but I can't help, and again, I'm very, very neutral. I can't help but think one of the least neutral things is the whole male-female child custody thing, because it's like, Matty, last question, because it's nearly 4 o'clock. If in an ideal world, in 6 months' time, what would be your situation?
Just everyone gets along and it's all fair. As long as it's fair, no one can have any gripes whatsoever. If it's fair and you're still having a bit of a whinge, well, then you're just a bit of a knobhead. But if it's fair, then no person can have any gripes whatsoever. That's what my personal view is.
That's fair. I tell you, it would be interesting, Josh, if I'm just trying to think. Imagine if we had a female on a podcast who was in a situation like Matty is, but obviously she had the whole custody thing, and she had a dad who was paying child support. What her whole thing would be,
The only issue is, though, we could get any man or any woman, but each story would be different because, for example, like you could have a single parent, a single mother who's got a violent alcoholic ex-husband.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, but like obviously Matt here, he's got his head screwed on. He cares. He wants to be a part of the life, and he's still having an absolute piss taken out of him.
Of course, there could be some, no matter what situation, there could be some very common similarities, no matter what situation. There could be something that she said that I'd be thinking, well, hold on a minute, Matty said that like 2 weeks ago, and it's a completely situation,
Well, if you go back to the child maintenance clause, say my ex-partner, her dad, you could have that scenario where the mum is really, really struggling, and it should be up to dad to step up and help, but then he's not doing sod all. So then obviously her whinge would be to said organisation, well, why am I only getting a fiver? Why am I? What am I supposed to do with a fiver a week for my chat? So you've got that kind of angle of it as well. It's not just
the thing is,
a hard time. I would agree that there are mums out there that get little like pittance for what they should be doing.
Yeah.
There will be women watching this that will agree with what we're saying. I just know it. But again, it's all a case of biasty as well. Like there's going to be people watching this and they're just going to disagree with every single thing, but couldn't give a fuck about them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because unfortunately, it's a very great that no one likes talking about. It should, like I said, how he's saying it should be. Men should do this. Men go out and go do the work. It's the same instance. If there's a breakup, it's the man's responsibility to pick up the pieces for absolutely everything. There's no, and that's down to the establishment.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be manipulated and to be abused if you want to use it. But like I said, but then it goes down to the individual and yada yada yada. It's you could have loads of different scenarios.
It's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky. It's 4 o'clock.
Yeah. We've been on for fucking an hour and a half. Is there anything that you would like to add before we end the episode, Matt? Is there anything else that you need to say to the viewers or to us?
Why were you so much better at football than me 15 years ago? No, joking.
No, just
last comments.
I'm trying to think of something. I'm trying to think of it as a positive. Like I was saying before, like You know,
Well, I
there's
think
no,
I
there's no
think.
you know, when we're going about being civil, no, there's no reason why that cannot happen.
Mm,
However, if there is a scenario where someone does something, don't expect it to go all hunky. Like, it's got to be a two-way thing. Like, if you're sound with that person's going to be sound with you. You know, that type of thing. And then at the foremost, the children comes first, whatever.
Yeah.
So if dad is taking him here, taking him there, doing whatever, taking him to school, like, leave him be. And likewise, if mum's doing all that she can, well, then dad can't have a whinge either. It works both ways. Just
I think just
try as much as you can to just.
my last comment, final comment is just to play devil's advocate. The ironic thing is, no matter how civil things can end, even if you and things were, you know, Hidori rainbows, it's things like this, the whole benefit law, paperwork, sign, that makes them civil. They ruin the potential being civil with each other, you know?
Of course I do, because at this moment in time, even though I have my children half the time, I'm classed as a secondary person. I'm not classed as a primary person or for a child benefit. Is that fair? No. Am I going to have a hump about it? Yeah, of course I am. If any of them are sick or injured, or I'm not taking them to the dentist because I'm not the primary carer. Like really?
yeah.
That's how stupid it gets.
Yeah.
Why
It
should
doesn't
I
make
do
sense.
that? I'm not the primary carer. It's the wording and it's the I don't. Again, if it's a benefit, right? Okay. Well, why can't it be paid to both people so then both are equal? Equality.
It's an interesting topic to hear because, again, like we said before, Matt, on the phone, all I see is the whole Facebook rant off everyone, you know, and a lot of it is, you know, mums going crazy at the dads for not doing whatever. But it's an interesting thing. Right, Josh, anything last before we go?
Not that I can think of. My brain's fried, to be honest with you. But I think what I would say is that anyone that's in a similar situation, and it sounds very cliche, but like, fucking talk to your mates if you're pissed off or stressed out. Like get it off your chest. Don't stay at home feeling shit. Like, just open up to people. Like, because
try and talk to someone neutral.
yeah, like, because this is obviously a serious topic, and people kill themselves for this kind of thing. So it's very important to reach out and speak to other people about it.
Of course it is.
Yeah. But you know what, boys? We're going to end the episode there because I'm fucking knackered. I'm actually knackered. I'm going to pass out any minute. But just to say to the viewers, if there's anything they want to comment on this, or if they want to reach out to me and Ollie and get involved on the episode or sometime, then just drop a comment or inbox me or Ollie. And it's been nice to meet you, Matt.
Thanks for having us.
Good talk.
It's been
Probably do another one next year. What do you reckon, Ollie?
Another 12 months for another one.
Yeah. Right, okay. We're going to end that there. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. And boys, I'll see you next time, yeah?
See you later.
Take care yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.